Welcome, everyone, to Build. I'm Amanda Silver, and I'm joined with my friend here, 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗶cie Casalaina.
Hello, I'm 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗶cie Casalaina.
So I've spent more than 2 decades working at Microsoft on developer tools and platforms, and I've really never, ever seen a shift as profound as the one that we're going through now. What we're seeing is that software is evolving from people-driven applications to agents that are defined by intent, and they're measured by the outcomes. And so these agents can reason, they can retrieve context, they can make decisions, they can take action on a user's behalf, and in many ways, this is really the automated future that we've all been working towards for decades. But there's a problem. More than 40% of agentic AI projects are expected to fail. And that's not because the models aren't capable, but it's because the agents lack the context that they need to be able to succeed. And so to make it work, developers actually have to stitch together the fragmented data sources, the custom retrieval systems, the permissions models, the orchestration logic, just to make agents useful. And we're all really figuring this out together, so we're all learning from each other. We don't necessarily know what the best practices are. But the result is that the experiences are brittle for the end user. And we see agents that hallucinate, we see systems that miss policy boundaries, and they break when they're deployed into production. And the challenge isn't giving agents the access to information. It's giving them a shared understanding of the people and the data and the policies and the business context that surround the agents as they're doing their work. So when a team actually gets this right, when organizations get this right, everything changes. The agents stop acting like isolated apps, and they start operating with an understanding of the enterprise around them, the people, the data, the workflows, and the policies. And the result is that the agents have better accuracy, they are more reliable actions, there's dramatically less engineering that you need to put into building these agents, and you don't have to recreate the context for every single agent that you build. It's really kind of the difference, the way I think about it is the difference between welcoming a brand new employee to the team versus somebody who's actually a seasoned employee on your team. So the question is, how can you take that knowledge that a seasoned employee has and infuse every new agent with that context as they're executing? So this is how we think about Microsoft IQ. You can think about IQ as the context layer for the agentic web. It brings together 4 different sources of context. Work IQ for the organizational context, Fabric IQ for the business knowledge, Foundry IQ for all of the enterprise knowledge and policies, and Web IQ for the world's knowledge. And together, this system really gives agents a shared understanding of the world, of your business, of the work that's happening on your teams. And this is what enables the agents to have enough context to make the right decision, to take the right actions, and to achieve the outcomes that you are trying to get them to achieve so that you can trust them. So let's jump into a demo really quickly. I want to show you what it looks like in practice. Last week, I sent 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 an email with an idea, a crazy idea. There was no spec, just an email, no design doc. And so he's going to show you how he went from that to a working agent.
All right, thank you, Amanda. All right, so here it is. This is the email that Amanda sent to me. So we have this onerous refund process, and she thought it might be a good idea to make an agent to do this stuff with all the different IQs. Now, I am going to start with Work IQ. So here I am in 𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 XV. Amanda Silver sent me an email about this refund agent idea. Let's start to make a plan, a little spec for this thing, so we can build this agent. Go look up that email. All right. So what's going to happen here in a moment is that I have Work IQ installed into my Copilot CLI. And what it's going to do here, it is going to use Work IQ to go find that email. So in this case, I am using, or really it's using Work IQ on my behalf. I've authorized it on my behalf. or, it might have a transient error. But that happens, that's all good. Okay, so anyway.
There we go.
Maybe not. I actually had it preloaded in a tab some here, but okay, so we're going to get a transient error. Suffice it to say that with WorkIQ, it can log in on your behalf. And in fact, if you use M365 Copilot, that is also what it's doing. You'll notice that for those of you who use Copilot, when you use it, there's a little thing at the top that says WorkIQ, and it's using WorkIQ to look up your email. Now, in any case, with that, we did make a spec. And so here is the spec that we ended up with. And with this spec, we ended up actually building the agent itself. And this is the agent. Now, this agent is using, this is the front end, the fancy front end for the agent. But if we look at it in Foundry, this is what this agent actually looks like. And in this agent, we are using all 4 of the IQs. And so, Amanda, if you don't mind, maybe you could tell us a little bit about WebIQ and Foundry IQ.
Sure. Sounds good. OK. So didn't work. We're going to come back to WorkIQ. Maybe Marco can actually go and debug it so we make sure that the WorkIQ works for our later demo. But basically, what we want to see now is that we can actually have WorkIQ kind of work in combination with WebIQ. And so what I want to kind of talk about here is really what is WebIQ. In a sense, the agents don't just need to understand your business. Oftentimes, what they need to understand is the real world in which your business is operating. I was talking with somebody today who delivers consumer goods, and he really needs to understand the micro events, the local events that are happening, so that he can actually have micro targeting of his different consumer goods that he's trying to deliver to all of these different markets. So that's a great example of where you might use something like WebIQ. So WebIQ really connects AI to authoritative real-world information. It's structured multimodal index across the web, news, images, and video, so that agents can be grounded and have their responses grounded in fresh, verifiable context. It's not a traditional search API. That's wrapped in AI. It's actually a grounding platform that's built specifically for the needs of modern agentic systems. So, if you think about building agents at scale, 3 things really matter. First, quality. WebIQ delivers structured, citation-ready results across the web, news, images, video, and it helps the agents generate the answers that users can verify and trust. Second, speed. Agent workflows are inherently multi-step. And so retrieval and reasoning and planning and action they all add latency. So with sub 200 millisecond P95 grounding, WebIQ really helps keep those workflows responsive, even as the agents chain together multiple operations. And third thing we have to think about is efficiency. The context windows are really valuable real estate. So WebIQ uses the passage level ranking to surface the highest signal information while filtering out the noise that allows you to reduce the token consumption and lowering the overall costs of the agents that are operating at scale. So WebIQ is already being used by many frontier model providers and a bunch of enterprises, and it's available today for a few Azure customers. One example is NASDAQ. So they have this solution they call Board Vantage, and NASDAQ really helps boards and executives make decisions in real time where the accuracy, the timelines, and the trust are really critical. And so that means that they can bring together the enterprise information and all of the external signals that they can get on the web without having to compromise the security or the data boundaries. So with WebIQ, NASDAQ can actually ground the AI in this fresh, authoritative information so that they can make all of these decisions in real time. And the result is faster access to the external context, higher quality responses, and a simpler architecture that allows them to build AI applications. So next up is Foundry IQ. So if WebIQ connects agents to the world's knowledge, Foundry IQ connects them to your knowledge. Enterprise knowledge, you could think about it as all of that that context that is scattered throughout your organization in data platforms, in content repositories, in business systems, in your custom applications. Now, today, developers have to spend too much time stitching all of these sources together before an agent can actually deliver the value. But Foundry IQ changes that. It provides the unified knowledge layer that automatically ingests and enriches, and it connects the enterprise information, and it eliminates a bunch of the retrieval logic and infrastructure that you would have to build otherwise. And then, at runtime, when the agent is operating, Foundry IQ intelligently retrieves the right information for you and from the right sources, giving the agents the context that they need to answer accurately and enable the agent to act confidently. So that means less infrastructure that you have to manage and more intelligence for the agents that you're building. So here's the mental model for Foundry IQ. At the foundation are your knowledge sources, your enterprise data, your documents, your applications, and the live web. And above that is the context layer, where memory, embeddings, and the semantic models all turn that information into understanding. And then at the top are the agents and the applications that the users interact with. So the key idea here is delegation. Every layer does one thing really well. Knowledge sources, they store the information, and the agents retrieve it and reason over it, and they take action. And as a developer, you don't want to have to rebuild that machinery inside every single agent. You might want to define a knowledge base that you then make available to multiple agents throughout your organization. So you want to build on top of it so that you can get to your solution faster. But great grounding isn't just about the retrieval. It's also about trust. So that's why security and governance and policy enforcement are built directly into the platform, not bolted on afterwards. And today, we're actually introducing a new serverless developer tier that gives every developer an easy way to get started building with Foundry IQ and allows them to scale to production when they're ready. Now, several organizations are already using Foundry IQ. Sitecore, which is a leader in digital experience and content management, it's a great example of what this looks like in practice. Foundry IQ gives them reusable knowledge bases, agentic retrieval, and enterprise-grade security out of the box. And Sitecore took those capabilities and then applied them directly to a real business problem so that they could make sure that their marketing and their brand knowledge is accessible to every agent across their organization, every time with all the right permissions. So that's exactly why we built Foundry IQ, so that developers can plug in their existing workflows and immediately empower the agents to be more accurate, more grounded, governed, and ready for production deployment. So now let's bring it all together. Marco is going to show you now what happens when you connect our refund agent to both 𝗦𝗽𝗲 and Foundry IQ and grounding it in the real-world information, the enterprise knowledge that you have inside your organization, and the governance required for production. So you'll see the knowledge base come online, the agent retrieve the context that it needs, and the policies that will ensure that it operates safely in production. Over to you, Marco.
Or we like to think that that'll happen, but in the time that you've been talking up there, I discovered that my network has gone down hard. So we're gonna make do with what we got here and hope for the best. So now we talked about 𝗦𝗽𝗲. Now we have, as I said, we grounded this agent to all 4 of the IQs. Now with 𝗦𝗽𝗲, that allows us to ground to real-time world data. Now in this case, I'm asking, now this is our package delivery system and refunds and things like that. And I am asking it about the Sandy Fire. The Sandy Fire is, right now, still burning 400 miles south of here in Simi Valley. And so the idea would be, if my network were working, that it will very quickly go to 𝗦𝗽𝗲 and get back this result and ground this agent to the real-time data. But I'm not going to sit here and wait for that to come back because that doesn't seem to be working. I even tried hotspotting it to my phone, but not great. So we're going to make do with what we got. Now, I am also linking this to Foundry IQ. So you see I got my Foundry IQ over here. What's that all about? So here is Foundry IQ with plenty of little errors on top due to my lack of a network connection. But what is not a problem here is the fact that I have connected this to a bunch of different data sources. And this highlights one of the key aspects of what these IQs are all about, and that is reuse. You know, the fact is, I got, let's see, how many agents have I got in here? I got 35 agents in here, of which 31 are currently running. And I'm connecting a bunch of them to the same data sources. I'm grounding them to the same context. And so what I don't want to do is redefine this over and over and over again for every single agent that I build. And so instead, what I can do is use a Foundry IQ knowledge base. Now, it's a little bit of a misnomer to call it a knowledge base, because that's not really what Foundry IQ is. What it really is a separate sub-agent. This is doing agentic retrieval, and that means that it can try and try again. It can re-rank results before it gives it up to my downstream agent. And so it can search through all of these things, and it reduces the amount of challenge that I have. Oh, he's giving me a new network connection over here. I'll take that in a minute. Okay. Not right now. Anyway, all right, so basically this allows me to reuse this context across multiple different agents. And so with that, Amanda, maybe we can talk a little bit about, now you see also we're using here Fabric IQ in the form of the Fabric data agent. And why don't you tell a little bit about Fabric IQ while I attempt to repair my network.
Go, Marco. We're all rooting for you, man. All right. So Foundry IQ really helps you unlock all of the information that your organization knows. But Fabric IQ is what helps them understand what's happening in real time. It allows the agents to connect to the data that you have in your organization, the metrics, the semantic models, and reports that describe the current state of the business so that they can reason with the same context that people use to make decisions across your team every day. So there are really 3 different outcomes that it can deliver: a shared understanding of how the business operates, insights that can turn those into actions, and agents that can reason over the business context, not just the raw data. But what really is it? At the foundation, there's all of your unified data in OneLake. So no matter where your data is today, even if it's not in a Microsoft database, you can actually bring it into OneLake, and it can kind of reason over it. You can have semantic models that are modeling all of your business metrics. Now, most of you have probably already defined these in Power BI. And one of the things that's so incredible about Fabric IQ is that it can just pick up what you've already defined in Power BI and start enabling the agents to reason over it. And then the ontologies, they capture what your business really means. All of the entities and the relationships and the rules and the constraints that your business operates on. So all 3 of those layers live in Fabric, and they're co-located with the data that they describe. They're not stitched together as you're trying to assemble it. So let's first talk about OneLake. You can think about it as a single unified data layer for your organization, and it brings together the analytical and operational data across the systems and the clouds that you're working in without having to constantly move it or duplicate it. And that really matters, because agents are only as good as the data that they can access. But with OneLake, every team, every application, and every agent can work from the same source of truth. And that eliminates all of the silos and all of the re-authentication and all of the authentication errors that you have to deal with. And it allows these AI systems to have consistent, scalable, and cost-effective solutions here. Now, on top of OneLake are these semantic models, and they are what bridge the gap between the data and the business meaning. And they define the metrics and the concepts that the orgs, that your teams use to run your business. Now, that way, when an agent asks what happened, it gets the same answer that your Power BI solution, your Power BI dashboards are going to deliver, what your analysts see, and ultimately what you report up to your executives as well. Now, ontologies, this is what gives the live model of the business. It's the entities and the relationships and the rules and the processes for your organization. Now, that means that the agents can actually reason about the customers and the orders, not just the tables and the schemas and the rows. And you can bootstrap an ontology from your existing semantic models or you can create one from scratch, obviously. But this is what gives agents the native understanding of how your organization operates. Now, 𝗦𝗲𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 manages energy for AI data centers, and they have a problem that is increasingly too dynamic and complex for humans to really reason about on their own. So they've used Fabric IQ to build an operational model of the data center that's understood by people, applications, but also by these AI agents. And that common understanding is what allows the agents to reason about the business, the recommended actions, and continuously optimize the operations, all while keeping human operators in control. And it doesn't replace the human judgment, but it allows the agents to automate given the context of the business. All right, how are we doing, Marco?
Well, you know, I think we're going to have to make do. It'll be fine.
Okay.
We're having,
so what we're going to show you now is how the refund agent can be grounded in the knowledge from Fabric IQ using the ontology and the semantic models that we had defined. So let's see if Marco can show us what we're talking about.
I'm going to do the best I can. I don't know, man. He came out, he gave me a new network, and it still doesn't work. So I don't know. Maybe my computer just doesn't want to connect today. Fortunately, I preloaded a lot of this stuff in case such a thing happened, and it did. So here we have it. Now, here's the deal.
It brings me back to the old days of like when the cloud was really flaky, and we had to do demos, and like we had to cache every single web page.
Right.
So thank you, Marco.
Could be worse, right? At least it didn't blue screen. All right, anyway. All right, so here's the deal. We got all this data in our 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀 catalog, all this like structured data, and I, as a human, this is how I access the data. I'll make all these Power BI reports. But what I'm not going to do, I'm not going to give Power BI reports to my agents. That doesn't make any sense. I don't know why we would do that. So we need something better for our agents. Now, underneath these Power BI reports is a semantic model. And the semantic model tells the system what the relationships are between all of the tables, right? So you got our packages and our drivers, and you see the one-to-manys. And that's almost what an agent needs, but not quite, because it kind of tells it about what the relationships are between these tables and stuff, but it doesn't really tell it what it means, like what it is. So, fortunately, now we got this button over here called Generate Ontology. And if I were to press it, I expect that nothing will happen because I got no network right now. But I'm going to press it anyway, just you know, for the feeling. Yeah, so as I expected, nothing. But under normal circumstances, we would see an ontology generator screen over here that would, you know, get me started in generating this ontology, which I did do. So here is the ontology over here, and I probably won't be able to show you too much about this, but what I will say is, now if you look at this, so this is one portion of my ontology that I built. This is the part about the packages and the customers and things like that. And in a way, it kind of looks like the semantic model, but it's not. It's different. Because these things, in an ontology, these things are not tables. These are business entities. These are things that matter to your business. And these relationships between them, these are not necessarily table relationships. These are verbs. So a customer can send or receive a package. A package can be sent to a customer. And that's what forms the relationships in these ontologies. You can also add to these things, and I'm not even going to try to show this right now. You can also add additional metadata, additional semantics to this. So for example, what is a package to us? What do we consider to be a package? What are some synonyms? I might call it a box or a case or a shipment or something like that. And so if I'm interacting with this data, I might use any of these words, and this ontology helps the agent convert those words to what is underneath the scenes, a query. And so the ontology allows me to give these semantics to my table to tell the agents what that is all about. Now, you can use an ontology directly as an MCP server. So when you define an ontology, there is an MCP server that you can then connect to, or anyway, connect your agents to, that will allow them to use that ontology. You can also do it here in Fabric IQ. So, I'm sorry, in Foundry IQ. So you can actually connect Foundry IQ to a Fabric ontology as well. And that really what it's doing, it's connected to the MCP server also. So it's using that ontology as a data source. Now, in this case, I'm going to, just for sillies, I'm going to reload this page again just to see if it wants to come back. Because if you look closely at the way that I set up this thing, I actually did not connect it just directly to the ontology. And the reason is, well, you're not going to be able to see it because it's not going to want to come up, but the reason I connected it instead to a Fabric data agent. So the Fabric data agent is a separate agent. And with the Fabric data agent, I can actually connect to a whole bunch of different data sources. So this Fabric data agent that you totally can't see is connected to the ontology, but also to a lakehouse and to some other sources. In that Fabric data agent, I have lots of context. So there's the semantics coming from the ontology itself, but I also have a lot of semantics that I added about the lakehouse. Because the second real purpose of all of these IQs is what I call context delegation. You know, every agent like this is sitting on top of a model, and every model has a finite context. There's only so much that you can put in your agent's head, so to speak. And so to query any structured data source like a lakehouse requires tons and tons of context. You got to give it what is each data source. You got to give it the data dictionary for each data source. You have to give it example queries. Here's how you query this thing. And you also have to give it ancillary instructions, like in my data agent, if only I could show it to you. In my data agent, I got a bunch of acronyms. So I got an acronym in there called SRC, Shipping Refund Concession, which is specific only to this business. So it's not going to be in the data. It's not going to be in the data dictionary. The model's going to have no idea what an SRC is. So the only way that it would know what this term is if we tell it, if we define it. And this is a lot of what you're doing when you're developing agents today. You're inputting this sort of tribal knowledge, this information that is in your head. What is an SRC? Well, now it knows. And so we put all of that context into the Fabric data agent so I don't have to put it in here. So I don't have to define that in every single agent that I have. We export that knowledge so that when it needs this structured data, it doesn't need to keep all that context in its head. Instead, it phones a friend. It calls the Fabric data agent to get that data. Now, let's take it away and bring it back to Work IQ. Meanwhile,
all right,
I'll continue fiddling with the network. Maybe we'll get it back.
Okay, do we have the video? We have videos?
I didn't have that.
We can always bring those up too. Okay. So Marco really used Work IQ in Act 1, or he was supposed to have, if he could have connected to the network, to basically take my email and turn that into a plan that he then implemented that application that he showed you a second ago. Now, let's talk about Work IQ specifically. It's really kind of, you could think about it as the people layer of Microsoft IQ. What it does is it basically takes all of the context of what your organization knows. Now, what does your organization know? It knows what you guys you discuss over email or what you discuss over Teams. And it basically takes all of that context, all of the data that lives in M365, and it allows the agent to be imbued with that knowledge so that it can understand your business processes, your collaboration, who's involved in a project, what's important, what decisions have already been made, what needs the attention next. Because the most valuable context in an organization isn't just data. It's actually the people. It's the people that are collaborating, that are working across the team to get everything over the finish line. So what makes IQ different than, say, the graph or kind of more any traditional APIs historically? 3 things. First, it's built for agents, not users. If you think about the way that APIs, traditional applications might access the graph or an API before, that would be on the scale of a human, right? What is the interactivity that a human needs? This is really designed to support the speed that an agentic process would need. It's also built around the organizational context, not the raw data. And it's built on top of your existing security model. It's not a copy of it. So all of the Work IQ data stays in your M365 context and in that tenant. And so that means that developers don't have to build their own systems that index all of this information. They don't have to extract all of the data from their M365. They don't have to build their own retrieval pipelines or their own governance layer just to help the agents have the context that all of their other employees have. It allows the agents to just get the work done. And 𝗦𝗽𝗲𝗀 is what provides that foundation out of the box. Now, it's really built for this agent-first world. So traditional APIs, they were built around applications and users. 𝗦𝗽𝗀 is designed around agents, these systems that need to reason and retrieve the context and collaborate and take action across the organization. And it brings together 4 different capabilities into a single intelligence layer. First is chat. Chat enables the agents to interact with the people and the other agents, supporting these conversational experiences that you might get in Microsoft Copilot with the agent-to-agent collaboration. The context gives the agents the grounded understanding of what's happening across the organization, drawing from the emails, the meetings, the Teams chats, documents, conversations, workflows, without having to require the developers to build their own retrieval orchestration process or their own index. The tools provide the capabilities, the simplified and governed way for agents to retrieve that information, but also to take action just as any other user would in the context of M365. So they can send an email, they can send a message, and all of that can be used via any kind of agent-friendly service. And then last, I think this is really interesting, is workspaces. What are workspaces? They're the persistent place for the agents to actually work, to kind of store their intermediate work product as they're getting things done. So if you think about agents are becoming increasingly more longer running tasks, they need to maintain state. They need to be able to share their progress across different phases of the plan that they're executing with other agents that they might be collaborating with or with humans that they're collaborating with. So all of these capabilities together, these are what give the organizations give the agents the same organizational context that an employee has on your team. So 𝗦𝗲𝗀 is a good example of a partner who's been integrating with 𝗦𝗽𝗀, and they're basically integrating all of the context directly into the collaborative experience for their application as well. So instead of copying the information between the tools or working from stale snapshots, the teams can actually access the same Microsoft 365 context and the documents, the conversations, all of the people that they need to collaborate with, all of those decisions, but they can now access it directly from the 𝗦𝗲𝗀 canvas. So there's no copy-paste that has to be done. There's no disconnected tools. There's no stale information when 𝗦𝗲𝗀 is connecting to this environment. It's just this shared context that seamlessly flows from M365 into 𝗦𝗲𝗀 and vice versa. Now that's exactly the kind of connected experience that we all want as end users, and it's really what agents need to be able to complete their work without boundaries across all of these different applications. So, Marco, oh my gosh, okay,
oh,
you guys are going to see the...
I got some good news for you.
Let's do it.
All right, let me tell you the story. Thank you. Thank you for bearing with me for the most catastrophic failure I've ever had on any stage anywhere. So a gentleman just came up to me from the audience. I actually don't know where you came from, but he came up here and he whispered
from heaven.
to me.
Heaven.
From heaven somewhere, from Valhalla. He comes up to me and he goes, hey, try turning off Global Protect. So I turned off Global Protect. It turns out it was globally protecting you all from seeing my demos. So I turned it off. And we're back online.
All right.
I don't know what's up with that, but let's take a look at this. So now you may remember that back when we started this thing, we had this kind of standalone anonymous agent over here, but that's how we started. That's not how we ended up, because you see what we did here, we defined this agent like this. This agent became a blueprint in A365, and that in turn became an agent template. Now, what is an agent template? Well, here, let me fire this guy up now that I'm back online here. This should go. I'm going to fire this guy up, but while we're waiting for him, this is my agent that I made. Now, here's the thing. When you have an agent template, you can go, or anyway, any user can go into Teams and create an instance of that agent. So the template by itself is not an agent. When you instantiate it, that's when you create an agent. In fact, I didn't just create an agent. I created my agent. So if we look at this agent, come on, buddy, wake up. If we look, oh, here we go again. If we look at this agent, well, okay, he doesn't want to open now, but if we look at this agent in the org chart, what you're going to find is that this agent has its own identity, and it reports to me. So, okay, it doesn't want to click now, so, okay. Wants to be challenging still, apparently, but
it's not in a
anyway,
good mood.
Maybe this other window will work. I don't know. Let's see. All right. Oh, yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Something's happening. Okay, it's slow, but it's working.
There you go.
All right. Look at that. There we go. So this is the refund processor agent itself, and it is reporting to me, and I, in turn, am reporting here to 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗻𝗔. Now, when I create this agent instance, it has its own Teams box over here. It also has its own inbox. Now, I had told it to go check its email. I told it to check its email. See, the thing is that I had forwarded it an email before. So I forward to my refund processor this email that I had gotten from 𝗦𝗽𝗲𝗀𝗶cie about the fact that her package hadn't arrived. So I forwarded that to my agent. I kind of delegated that work. And in fact, we can see now that it did work. It has emailed back Maria and copied me. So it emailed Maria, and it's like, hey, sorry about that. I wasn't able to, well, in this case, I wasn't able to find the package, so we're full of challenges here today. But regardless, it was able to send that email directly back to Maria and copy me. Now, how did it do that? How was it able to check its own email box? Well, it gets us right back to this. Work IQ. Work IQ, you could really look at it as the agent-facing headless version of all the Microsoft apps, of Outlook and Teams, of SharePoint and Word. And this is how my agent is able to interact with these Microsoft things using its own identity. And there's an additional advantage to giving this agent its own identity. It lives in its own security space. It has its own rights and permissions. So earlier, when I checked that email from you, or when I attempted to check that email from you from Copilot CLI, I was using WorkIQ on my behalf. So WorkIQ in that case was logged in as me. But that means that it inherits all of my rights, all of my permissions. It can do anything that I can do. But when I make one of these agent instances, one of these autopilot agents, then I can give it its own permission space. Maybe I say, you can send and receive emails, but you can't write Word documents, or you can't change things. Or maybe it can only draft emails, but it can't send them. Whatever that is, I can give it a different set of security settings to those that I have, thereby limiting what that agent can do. But once again, how does it interact with the world? Via WorkIQ.
Awesome.
So Amanda, we managed to get it back online.
So are we online? Do you want to just show them like one more, like go back to the fabric
yeah,
thing?
Sure.
Just to kind of
hey,
show
you know
them
what?
A little bit?
Why don't we do
a little bit more of
Why
a
don't we do a little quick synopsis of all the things? Yeah. So here finally, how is this? So WebIQ, you may remember back in the day, not that long ago, WebIQ, I asked about the Sandy Fire, and lo and behold, it totally did find the information about Sandy Fire and how that's affecting us. It did that here in just a couple of seconds. So that was cool. Well, we saw Foundry IQ. Now, when it came to my Fabric Data Agent, I mentioned all of that context that I had to give my Fabric Data Agent. So I have my different data sources here. And this was the context I was talking about, the description, the data dictionary, the example queries, and these ancillary instructions over here, including my SRC, special acronym. So this is all the context that you can put in Fabric that you don't have to give to all your downstream agents. So you saw that, and you saw WorkIQ. You saw this agent literally reading its email and sending an email using WorkIQ.
Awesome.
So yeah, it was
one
fun,
last one that I need to have the satisfaction. Go back to this GitHub CLI. Let's see if we can get WorkIQ working with CLI.
Right, try
you guys are going to
again.
forgive us if it doesn't fit.
Let's see if we can get it to do it again now. So hopefully, so now we're back to WorkIQ as me. Well, this is looking promising here. And lo and behold, it is indeed asking WorkIQ, and in a moment, surely, it will find that email that Amanda sent me.
Awesome. Great. Okay. Thank you, Marco. See, we always want to do live demos for you because we know that you guys like live demos. As developers, we don't want to give you canned, like, screenshots, all this kind of stuff. Like, I live on live demos. So that's my call. I'm glad we did it, and hopefully you guys will forgive us for it. But I think what you guys saw is that this is all agentic delegation that's grounded in the real context. We had one refund agent that you saw. That refund agent, we actually grounded it in the web, the real-world data. We had the work IQ for all of the people interaction, all of the historical data of how the teams collaborate. We had Fabric IQ that had all of the business context around the ontologies and kind of the semantic information of the way that your business actually operates. And we had Foundry IQ for all of the enterprise knowledge that the agent was working on. And then at the end, you saw how Marco actually created, he kind of embodied this agent in terms of giving it an addressable name in the org chart so that I could send an email to it, I could interact with it in Teams. This is actually super important because a lot of times, as developers, we're very used to dealing with very technical user interfaces, right? But we're building for people who are used to working in M365, used to working in Teams, interacting in Teams. And so this is a critical capability that allows a bunch of people who don't necessarily want to go to a different user interface to be able to interact with the agent that you're building. Now, all of this together gives the agents the context that they need to be able to reason, to decide, to act with confidence. And in a lot of senses, the future that we're building together, it's not just filling these agents with more information. That's actually going to make agents very expensive to operate. What we need to do is to make sure that they have the right context so that they can make the best decision with the most minimum amount of information that they need with the highest confidence. So it's really this intelligence that is what makes the agents useful. And it's the trust that makes them deployable. So that's why every single layer of Microsoft IQ is built on the same foundation of identity and governance and security. The agents are permission aware by default. Every action is traceable and explainable. And the policies are applied consistently across the entire agent ecosystem. Now, that's because the challenge isn't really just building a single agent in an intelligent environment. It's actually building thousands of them, actually making sure that your entire organization, as it's building and deploying these agents, that these are all governed, that you can trust them, you can deploy them without having to monitor every single one of them in a bespoke way, that you can do it in kind of like a more unified way so that you can actually make sure that the agents are behaving the way that you expect. So that's really what we've been trying to do across the board. And so let's talk about how you guys can all get started. Everything that you saw today is available for you to start building now. You can try the hands-on lab. We have one that'll be going deep on all of these IQs. You can join us at the booth, obviously. You can join the discussion on GitHub. And we're really interested in understanding what you guys are building so that we can really make the products better for you. We really want to see what you're going to be creating. Now, if today's keynote, if it sparked an idea for you, this is really where we want to see you bring it to life. We have this Agents League hackathon, and that's your chance to be able to build with everything that you saw today, from creative applications to autonomous agents to enterprise-grade systems. Don't just imagine what's possible. You should actually go and try to build it. I hope that today inspired you, and we're really looking forward to seeing what you're going to build. So thank you, everybody, and thank you, Marco, for that. Yeah.
Thank you all for bearing with us. And enjoy the cold, cold San Francisco summer. Have a great build.
Thanks, everybody.